Regardless of who Mary Randall is working with, her zest seems to magnetically attract others to the cause she advocates. Thankfully, for 26 years, that cause has been vocational education. She infects everyone with whom she comes in contact with enthusiasm and a positive attitude. Since her birth in 1928 on a farm in the small Oklahoma town of Hennessy, this small bundle of pure sunshine has been making things happen and making a difference in the lives of others. After graduating from Hennessy High School, she graduated from St. Anthony's School of Nursing and St. Mary College. After 17 years as a military wife and mother and working at a variety of nursing positions, she joined the Votech family in 1969 as the director of the Norman School of Practical Nursing, which was eventually absorbed into Moore Norman Area Votech School. Most notable among her achievements in that tenure was the fact that every one of her students passed the National Licensure Examination. In 1976, she moved to the Oklahoma Department of Vocational Technical Education as the Assistant Supervisor of the Health Occupations Education Division, where she began putting her imprint on Oklahoma's statewide vocational health occupations education programs. She became supervisor of the division in 1980. For the next 10 years, all of those connected with Oklahoma's health occupations education had to sit back, strap themselves in, and hang on as health occupations education came into its own. In that 10-year span, Mary built an ever stronger foundation under Oklahoma health occupation education. The quality of Oklahoma's health occupations education curriculum and classroom management has blossomed into a national model. Mary recognized that while instruction on healthcare skills was important, the need for students to develop a strong, positive self-concept and effective leadership abilities was critical. She led in the development of an organization for students called the Health Occupation Students of America. She was a member of HOSA's first National Board of Directors, serving as chair in 1980. In 1987, she was elected as Vice President of the Health Occupations Education Division of the American Vocational Association, serving 3 years on the Board of Directors. She was later named as recipient of the Health Occupation Education Division's Outstanding Service Award. Mary lovingly refers to Oklahoma's health occupations teachers as her teachers. Those teachers think highly of Mary as well. In a letter they composed supporting her nomination for the Francis Tuttle Career Excellence Award, which Mary received in 1991, they wrote, "We shared personal joys and sorrows like births, marriages, illness, and deaths of loved ones. We shared accomplishments like completing a degree or receiving an award. She told us she was proud of us, and she smiled 95% of the time." Until now, the Francis Tuttle Career Excellence Award has been her crowning achievement. Now she can add this Hall of Fame honor as well. We proudly salute Mary Randall, a truly dedicated servant of Oklahoma vocational education.
I'm honored to be able to introduce our last inductee into this year's Oklahoma Votech Foundation Hall of Fame. As I reflected on what to say about Mary Randall, I decided that maybe I ought to walk down the hall and ask some of her former co-workers if I could just give them one word, how they would describe Mary Randall. Well, the first person I ran into was Rick Griffin, and he called her loving. Judy Draper said gracious. Janet Moore said congenial. And as I walked on down the hall and rounded the corner and continued to ask the question, I heard words like smiling, genuine, sensitive, professional, super nice, that one cheated, that was really 2 words, happy, beautiful, compassionate, energetic, and the list went on and on. When I asked Matt Boyles what he thought, he said, well, she's hard to describe in only one word. And then he continued on by saying, Mary's a person who's always looking for the positive in everyone and everything. When I reached Roy Peters' office, he looked at me and he said, one word's a problem. He continued on by saying, I guess I would have to say, dedicated. Well, I'm not going to quote Will Rogers tonight. I want to quote my dad. Because when I was very young, I remember my dad saying to me one time that if you really do something with your life, if you really make something out of yourself, the chances are that sometime you're going to step on people's toes and you're going to make somebody unhappy. Well, that was a long time before my dad met Mary Randall, as I heard nothing but positive terms to describe her. Through the years, I've seen Mary in times of sorrow, in times of happiness, and times of stress. Throughout it all, Mary has maintained her sense of caring about others. It was never uncommon for those of us who worked with Mary all around that agency to stop in just for a rest or to get our blood pressure checked. You know how that is. Or some general medical advice about ourselves, significant others, or just maybe someone we do. When Mary didn't know the answer to what was going on with this medical condition or ailment, out would come the medical book. She'd look it up, read us the textbook description of the problem, and then she'd look at our faces, know we didn't understand, and she'd then tell us the real answer in terms that we could understand. More than once, people have gone into her office to ask her a question about a particular pill or a capsule that somebody had prescribed, and out would come the book, and if she couldn't find the picture of the pill, then she'd call her daughter Dee Dee, the pharmacist, and find the answer. Bottom line for Mary, an attitude of service. One time Mary came to me to ask me if it would be okay if she took a part-time job. Now, mind you, she was already the state supervisor of health occupations. And I guess I had to say that I was under the impression we all had full-time work already. In her case, though, Mary was afraid that she would lose her edge with regard to skills. And she thought that by spending some time each week for several months at a local nursing home, that she could get back closer to her profession. Their gain was our gain, as she then had refreshed her skills to ensure that they were more relevant to today's workplace. It was no surprise to her peers when she was selected as president of the Health Occupations Division and vice president of the American Vocational Association. After all, Mary had led the charge to bring new credibility to her field, and she'd been instrumental in organizing HOSA, the Health Occupation Student Organization, at both the state and the national levels. She earned respect for herself and for Oklahoma vocational educators, and it was no secret, and it is no secret, that her professionalism and her dedication had earned her this prestigious honor. The list of complimentary terms about Mary can go on forever. And Mary, we thank you for your devotion to Oklahoma's vocational system. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the newest inductee to the Oklahoma Vocational Education Hall of Fame, Mary Randall.
At our first national, or at the first national HOSA convention, which was held in Oklahoma, we wanted a student, a HOSA student, to give the keynote address at the banquet. With a lot of persuasion from her teacher, Wanda Wolf, who later became one of my assistants, the student agreed to speak. It came the night of the banquet, and the student came to the podium, just as I'm here tonight. The student looked out over the audience, just as I'm doing tonight. There were about 600 or 700 people there from across the nation. That little student, in a voice that was barely audible, her first words were, "Gee whiz." That's almost my feelings tonight, people. That truly does describe the way I feel as I look out over the audience that's here tonight. To think that a little country girl, as you heard earlier, I was born over by Hennessy, out in those red hills, out in the country. To think that someone coming from there would be up here tonight and being recognized and honored with the highest award that we can receive in vocational education in Oklahoma. I am tremendously proud and appreciative to be here. I'd like to take just a few minutes to thank some of the people that have helped or have made it responsible, who are responsible for me being here tonight. Of course, first and foremost, my two daughters, Mary and Susan, who are here. My two daughters, many, many times, because of my position, had an absentee mother. Yet, they handled it very, very well. And they become very independent, very self-sufficient. They're two pretty wonderful kids. and I'm very proud of both of them. My family, which is rather small, was always here to support me. My brother, Henry Hickey, and his wife from Hennessy. My sister, Rose, and her husband, Ray Nissen from Perry, are here tonight to share this with me. Once again, their support. And then there's two other very, very special people that have come quite a distance to be here with me tonight. And that's my niece, Jackie Anderson. Wave your hand, Jackie, who flew in from Minneapolis to be here tonight. And then another dear friend, Pete Jorgensen, who drove in from San Diego to be here tonight. Now, I could stand up here all night and recognize the other friends that are here tonight supporting me, but I think you all want to get home sometime before midnight. So, again, I'll just say thank you all so much, the other friends who are here to, once again, to support me. Professionally, where would I begin to thank the many people who have helped bring this about tonight? And I think you all know where I will begin, and that will be with my teachers, the health occupation education teachers with whom I've worked for the past 20 plus years. You know, just as teachers have students, just as nurses have their patients, I always felt that I had my teachers. And we did a lot of sharing. We did a lot, I know I did, a lot of growing along with my teachers. And you know the old saying that a leader is only as good as his or her followers. Well, it is because I had such wonderful followers and leaders in their own right. This is why I'm here tonight. And so this really tonight, I just think is very much a tribute to all of the health occupation education teachers that I've worked with these past many years that I've been in vocational education. I also want to say a great big thanks to the area vocational technical school administrators who are here and who have always supported me in the many years. See, most of the health occupation programs were in the area vo-tech schools, or the technology centers, as so many of you are calling them today. And some of these superintendents and I didn't always agree, Bruce, did we? But we always managed, or at least I think we did, we always managed to negotiate our differences, and we ended up friends. And again, I always had a tremendous respect for our superintendents, our local school administrators, because I always felt that they knew more what their community needed than I did sitting up in the state office. And I felt that it was my role to be a technical advisor, to provide technical assistance to our area schools. And whenever I could, twist Norman and RL's arms and try to get you all a little money to put together these programs. And last, and certainly not least, the tremendous staff at the State Department. You know, Dr. Tuttle and Roy and Dr. Alexander, I always felt like they always gave me enough rope to hang myself, but they were also there when I needed help, when I got into trouble. And so I thank you all for giving me those opportunities. I'd also thank my immediate supervisors, and especially the one who introduced me tonight, Ann Benson, not only my supervisor, but my friend, my confidant, and I couldn't be up here tonight, most certainly without you, without all the tremendous support that you have given me. Oh, you're back here. All the tremendous support that you've given me over these past many years. And then, of course, my own staff that were there. Again, we didn't always agree on things, Wanda and Gail, and I think Jan McSwain may be out there tonight. We didn't always agree on things, but I always felt like in the long haul, I had your support, and for that, again, I thank you. There's so many. I could go on also with the many, many wonderful people. You've heard them referred to as the vo-tech family. I could go on for many, many people that were so much a part of my life at the State Department. And I'm only going to mention one other person by name because he's the one that has made all of us look so very good up here tonight. and he's been out there taking pictures. He did all this wonderful writing and slides and so on. He also always has given me a hard time with the State Department, but he sure did make me look good in pictures and writing and such. Ron, where are you? Ron Wilkerson. Thank you, Ron. And it was sort of a standing joke when we used to have our HOSA state conferences. My assistant, and at that time state host advisor, Wanda Wolf, it was always before we started the meeting. Mary, now you have 3 minutes, or you have 5 minutes, and she'd stand back there and she'd let me know when my 3 or 5 minutes were up. Well, Wanda, am I doing all right tonight, I hope? Anyway, as I close, again, I would like to just say thank you to a tremendous group of people, and I truly, this is without a doubt the most wonderful honor that I probably will ever receive. Thank you again.